everyone, I hope you are having a slayful day. My name is Flick and you're listening to Hard Hats and Heels, recorded at Flexi Desk's Sunshine Coast. Hello guys. I am back in the studio after literally 2 months of being out, just because I had pre-recorded everything for you guys. You guys got an episode last fortnight. We've moved to fortnight episodes just so I can put more of a focus into my career at the moment. Obviously my episode from a fortnight ago was just about, what I've been up to, because I've literally been MIA for 2 months, and I just kind of catched you guys up on playgrounds and everything, and I definitely am going to jump more in depth into an episode about playgrounds eventually. I just really wanted to focus on my career and getting, my life set up at work, because obviously starting a new job is daunting, and even more daunting starting a new job as a leading hand as a woman in a male-dominated industry. So yeah, that I am back on the podcast studio though, and I'm very, very happy to be back. I feel just so natural being in front of a camera and behind the microphone. It's so nice. So we're just going to jump into this week's episode, which is going to be about, we're going to introduce the term pink flag. So the pink flag is not outright abuse, it's not sexual harassment, it's not anything like that, but it's just those subtle remarks, those subtle feelings, those subtle vibes we get as women being on a job site that is not really inclusive for women. So when we talk about dating and relationships, we're like, ooh, red flag. This is going to be pink flag. It's going to be like, ooh, pink flag. That doesn't really seem like we're welcomed here. Because it's something that I feel so often, and not to say that I work for a bad company or anything like that. My crew is genuinely really amazing, but in playgrounds we go from job site to job site all the time, and around all the time. And in my last 2 companies, I obviously had met some people, and I'd been to so many different sites that you just really get an inkling for when you are welcomed as a woman in this world. So we're going to jump right in. So what are the subtle red flags? And these are warning signs. These are ooh, this could potentially be an environment that is not very welcoming for women. So kicking it off is we're going to start pre-starts. Being spoken over is probably one of the biggest pink flags we can find. I think I've spoken about this before on the podcast, but I just don't understand being spoken over. I would never speak over another man or another woman. So why do men in particular feel like they can speak over another woman on a job site just because this is their environment? So yeah, that's just one of the pink flags that I've definitely found on the job site. This one is I reckon it could get taken the wrong way, but being assigned the lighter, more maintained, however you say that word, jobs. So I have a really good little story time for you guys, but basically when I worked for my first company that I worked for when I was first starting my traineeship, I was on this job site where there was an excavator working near a footpath. Now, this footpath had one driveway through it, and there was a traffic controller there that was for the footpath, and then it had one driveway. So in my head, now going on as being an acting leading hand's position, and now I am a leading hand, I know that I was right to think the way that I was thinking. But in my head at the time, I was thinking that why can the traffic controller not just watch the driveway as well? Why is there 2 people here now watching the excavator for members of the public? And I literally was sat here for 4 days, just spotting this excavator, and it drove me crazy. And don't get me wrong, I've been in construction, I've been in civil. I know how important a spotter is, and I know what can happen if there is not a spotter there. I completely understand that. But to have someone sit there for 4 days when, I kid you not, one car came out of this driveway at the same time every single day is just ridiculous to me. And it was given to me, no doubt in my mind, because I was a woman. and I was a young girl who couldn't speak up for herself and didn't have the confidence to question whether this was necessarily something I should be doing. It just became really painful. I understand when there's power lines. I understand when there's, stuff in the ground, solar, Felicity, sewer. I understand that completely, but this particular experience that I'm thinking of in the top of my head, it was not a very nice experience from what I can tell, and that job site was not a very nice job site to be on. I remember being so excited when I was getting taken off of it. But yeah, so like that to me is a pink flag. Like if you are giving a woman a lighter job, an easier job just because she's a woman, I think that is a pink flag, because like we're not asking for, like easier treatment. We're not asking for princess treatment. Like I want to be treated the exact same as every other man on a job site. And I always get people in my comments saying that you can't be treated like a man on a job site. You wouldn't be able to handle it. The job site, the company I work for now, they treat me no different to any of the other boys, and I can handle it. I push wheelbarrows of concrete around. I make concrete. I can do anything the boys can do. And if I can't do it because of it's a physical way, I figure out a smarter way to do it. But like giving a female a job because it's easier or lighter or anything like that is such a pink flag in my opinion. And just not a good thing. Banter turning into discomfort. I'm all for a good banter on site. I am the biggest class clown on a job site you will ever find. I'm always cracking jokes. I'm always doing banter. But it's when they turn the fact that you're female into a punchline is, ridiculous. Like using words like apparently. I've had somebody say, oh, she's the boss apparently. What the hell is the go with that? Now, that's in a completely different kettle of fish, really, but it's just what popped in my head then. But if we're talking about, when someone's oh, but she's a girl, or makes a joke about the fact that I'm a woman, or makes a joke about the fact that I have long hair and I have my period or anything like that, makes the fact that I'm a woman into the whole joke, is a pink flag in my opinion. And now I'm not saying that I call it out every time. There's a time and there's a place for calling these sorts of things out. I'm going to get into this a little bit later. But, it's definitely like a little pink flag goes off my head like, flick, that's not okay, flick. And I would never want another girl to feel like that. Whereas I'm strong and independent and I can hold my own on a job site. I would never want a girl who's just stepped into the construction industry who isn't quite confident in the construction world to be the reason that she doesn't want to continue in construction anymore. The last thing is a boys' club. I am such a big believer in, outside of work activities, being a really close, tight-knit group, because I think it makes a safer, better working environment. No one wants to come to work when they're miserable. And if you've got a good group at work where you can, get along with them and have a joke with them and have a laugh with them, it makes work better. And it also, I think, makes us for a safer workplace, because I'm not saying that I don't look out for everyone on my job site, 100%. But I know that in people, when we care about someone, when we're close with someone, we want to make sure we take that extra mile to take care of them. So I think when you're mates, you will look out for your mates a little bit closer, which I think is something that's so, so important on a job site. So this boys' club culture where you're excluded from, activities like Arvo beers and going to the pub after work, it really does have an effect, because it puts a line in the sand. And so many people can be like, oh, it's because you can't take a joke. No, I can take a joke. I can't take disrespect, and there's a difference. And sometimes men are just so caught up in the fact that they think it's a joke when it's just outright disrespect. And I think it's, I think it's so unfair for us to be excluded because we can't take a joke. Well, no, it's not because we can't take a joke. It's just that we can't handle disrespect. But we still should be included. you've got this, you don't want to have a little boys club on site and then just have one girl feeling like she's not involved and not welcome to be like in an environment where she should be welcome. Like if that's your crew, if that's your job site, you should be included. No one should be excluded, boy or girl, no one. But I find time and time again that women get excluded from these activities because men have got a little boys club going. Like you guys are full grown men and you still want to, act like you're in high school. And then my last one is male co-workers defending bad behavior with that's just how he is. Oh, boys will be boys. Quite ridiculous in my opinion. Being a bystander is just as bad as the action. We were taught that in school, that if you bystand bullying, then you are just as bad as the person doing it because you're not doing something about it and you're seeing it happen. I believe that's the same on the job site. If you can see someone's purposely making a woman uncomfortable in an environment where she has no reason to feel uncomfortable, you are just as bad as the person for not stepping in and trying to do something. And you're even worse if you're just defending their behavior with boys will be boys or that's just how he is, because we need to make that a change. We need to be like, well, no, that's not just how he is. That's not okay. We're going to start calling them out. And if men started calling other men out, it would make a much better, inclusive job site. But men are afraid of what other men think, that they're, for whatever reason, when you shouldn't. You should be wanting to back every single person on site. I will call out a man or a woman, it doesn't matter who they are, if they are being disrespectful or little pink flags are going off in my head. So what do you do when you spot the flag? So you see the little pink flag? I've just given you examples of what I think. Sorry, guys. I've just given you examples of what I think. So you see the little pink flag and now what do you do? Okay, so a little gut check with yourself. So think about, would I want my daughter? Would I want my sister? Would I want my cousin? Would I want my niece? Would I want them to be in this environment? If the answer is no, if you wouldn't want to subject them to what you're being subjected to, it's probably not okay. So after you've done your little gut check, you know that it's not okay, the pink flag's definitely there, it could potentially even be a red flag, what do you do? So documenting things, names, dates, incidents, that it's happening, especially if it's turning into something much bigger than, just your subtle pink flags. If it's turning into blatant bullying and sexual harassment and anything of the sort, you need to be making incident reports within yourself, keeping receipts. So name, date, time, what was said, who was there, all that sort of jazz is really, really, really important. And then the next thing would be talking to someone. It doesn't have to be in work. It doesn't have to be outside work. Just someone you trust. Because you might just need to vent. It might not actually be something that you need to go and make a formal complaint about, but you might just need to get it out. But that brings me to my next thing, is knowing when to raise it formally and seek help. I'm actually working on having someone from HR on an episode quite soon so that we can talk about these things in a more broken down way. But knowing when to report it is so hard, but if you think that you wouldn't want, if you think about your friend, right, because we're often really hard on ourselves and more judgmental on ourselves, and we're easier on the people we love. So if there was a female that you loved and she was in this environment, what would you tell her? Would you tell her to report it? And if you would tell somebody else to report it, then you need to be reporting it yourself. Completely agree with that. So if you have reported it, one of the things that I've seen so commonly is the isolation and the silent treatment after you've spoken up. It makes you feel like you're asking for too much for you wanting a safe and inclusive environment to work in. And I can promise you that you are not. And you're also not alone, because this happens so much. And in the moment, you could probably feel really isolated because everyone on the job site is making you feel isolated. But there's going to be people out there who are going to support you and are going to want to see you succeed. And it's just a matter of finding your people within a work environment. And it's so hard because, especially choosing construction as the job that you want to be in, you don't want to, have to change companies all the time or have to change crews all the time. But it's just frustrating that the reality is so many girls do change crews all the time because of the way they're spoken to and the way they're treated. And so many girls do quit jobs all the time in construction and not go back to construction because of the way people treat them and speak to them. So how can we create change, even if it's quietly? Leading by example. You know, if you want to be treated a certain way, I really think you need to be treating them the way you want to be treated. Don't stoop to their level of just downright disrespect. Be respectful, be kind, be a good person. Karma's real, in my opinion, and it'll come back to them. But if you're holding yourself to a higher standard, people will see that and people will recognize that. And if you do, have another woman come onto your job site, they can see that you're leading by example and that you are a safe place for them, which is exactly what we want to be building within the construction industry. Moving on from that, backing another woman on site. If you do have another woman on site, be her motherfucking cheerleader. That is what we want, being a cheerleader. And we had an episode about this a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't listened to it, it was all about how to be a girl's cheerleader on a job site. So I think it's so important. But in the moment, just saying that's not on. Just not laughing at it. Not just standing there and taking it and be like, oh, what an odd thing to say. Just say that. What an odd thing to say. What a weird thing to say. People will sit there and start to question, oh, was that an odd thing to say? Was that a weird thing to say? I think it's a really good note to have. And then helping younger girls avoiding what you went through. I love when I see another young woman, like a 17-year-old or a 16-year-old on a job site. I'm like, you are my baby. I want to take care of you. I want to lift you up. I want to, be your best freaking friend because I want to see you thrive in this environment. And I don't want to see them go through some of the things that I had to go through as a woman within construction. So just as a wrap up, you're not overreacting. You are allowed to feel uncomfortable and you're allowed to expect respect. And I'm sure so many men are going to listen to the snippets on Instagram of this episode and be like, rah, 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 rah. But you don't know how it feels to have to show up to work every day and wonder, am I going to get respected today? Just think about that. You don't show up to work every day and wonder, oh, am I going to get spoken over? You don't have to show up to work every day and wonder if you deserve to be there and have to convince yourself that you deserve to be there, because this isn't an industry that's made for women. But in order for us to, continue to make this an industry for women, we need to start speaking out about these sorts of things and having conversations about it, because everyone knows change comes from a conversation. But that is pink flags, in my opinion. I really hope you guys enjoyed the episode. It was probably a bit of a deeper one, and I really hope this resonated with some people, because I know that listening to this back, it really resonated with me. But I hope you guys have a slayful rest of your week, and I will chat to you guys very soon. Bye.